Hello, my name is Lydia Jordan. I'm the CEO and founder of Lycon Cosmetics. I have been manufacturing the Lycon depilatory wax products as well as skincare products since 1978. Lycon is distributed around the world in 75 countries, and in the waxing world it is considered the creme de la creme of waxes. It is very easy to use and there's so many choices, so it makes life very, very comfortable and easy. In this presentation, I'd like to explain a few things about the different types of wax and what really works best for wear. For the larger areas, strip wax is fantastic because it's very economical. A little bit goes a long way. For example, out of one jar like this, it's 800 grams, you can do 27 half leg waxes, 2 legs. Then I will talk about the cartridge waxes and then when do you need to use the hot waxes as well. So before we start to wax, we need to check what the hair is like. The model here has very, very short hair, and strip wax is not really the best for this type of hair, but we're going to do it anyway. So first of all, we have to prepare the skin. There's a set of pre and after waxing lotions, and we cleanse the skin first of all with the Lycotane skin cleanser. It has a hospital grade disinfectant in it, a little bit of alcohol, not much, so it evaporates quickly, dries off the skin very quickly, but it doesn't also dry the skin out. Right, so it takes off perspiration, pollution, grime, dust, any cream residue that's on the skin. We need to remove all of that. The other thing we do have on our skin is some bacteria that is floating around everywhere all the time. Bacteria is actually everywhere, so we clean with the Lycotane skin cleanser. That means that when we're actually waxing and apply products, the bacteria cannot get into the follicles. We've taken it off. Now, depends on the skin condition. If the skin is very, very dry, we can apply a little bit of pre-waxing oil under strip wax as well. The pre-waxing oil was originally designed to be used under hot wax and during hot waxing, but it's actually very useful if the skin is very dry under strip wax. Lycon strip waxes can be applied extremely thinly. So when you actually apply them, if the skin is very dry, the skin is going to absorb the natural oils out of the wax, and then it probably won't come off so well. So I'm just going to apply the smallest little bit. You can hardly see it. If it's too oily and shiny, you cannot wax like that. You must remove it, with a tissue. Now there's a couple of different ways to apply the strip wax. You can use a metal spatula, or you can use the disposable tongue depressors. It depends really where you are and if you can use a metal spatula and redip it or not. Otherwise, with the no redipping, the tongue depressors, wooden spatulas are really the best. It's a one-use spatula. So we've got to take a certain amount of wax, not too much. Don't dip the spatula in too deeply because then it'll dribble everywhere. And we apply the wax very, very thinly. The working temperature of Lycon strip waxes is about 79 degrees. So that is really quite hot, but the composition of the wax actually doesn't feel hot. The type of resins we use produces our waxes to be very, very low temperature, so you can actually apply the wax at that temperature and not feel any discomfort. Now, to remove the wax, the strip wax, we remove at an angle from inside out because the hairs tend to grow inwards, and on the inside they're growing inwards this way. There can be sometimes differences, so just observe and see which way the hair is growing, and then you remove against the hair growth. I actually remove the wax from the top down. So we bond and remove the wax, and then we bond again. So while I bond again, I'm already soothing this area where I've just removed some of the wax. And we remove it along the skin, not upwards. If we remove the wax upwards, it actually is quite painful because going upwards, you're removing the wax like that, and it's pulling a lot of skin in one go upwards. But if you go in that direction, it is pulling the skin gradually in that way. So you can see a lot of the hairs are very short, but it is still, removing them. Now the wax I just applied is the Active Gold, which is that one there. And the Active Gold has Micro Mica, and the Micro Mica actually floats on the skin. It stops the wax from sticking to the skin and makes waxing very, very comfortable. We'll do another application. Because the wax is not hot, you can actually apply it straight away back on the skin. Okay. And there's more hairs coming off. Okay, now some of the other strip waxes in the jars are the So Berry, delicious. It's a really lovely wax. It smells like berries. It is beautiful, and the great thing about this one is you can really see exactly where you've applied it. Okay, so that is about how much you can apply with a metal spatula. So then you would actually have to probably get another spatula. So the tongue depressors are very convenient, and you don't have to worry about not being able to re-dip. You just throw them out. So in this case, I'm pulling the wax towards me because the hairs are growing in that direction and they're coming off very, very nicely. So those two waxes have the Micro Mica, and then the other ones I've got melted here is the Lycotane strip wax and the Lycoflex. The way this wax works, when you remove it, it feels like a second skin that's come off, and it's really, really soft. So this is the Lycotane white strip wax. When you remove it, it is absolutely, totally not sticky at all. Comes off so well. Removes the hair extremely well. You can see this. Now the next one is the Lycoflex. That's a pine resin based wax. Smells beautiful. This one also leaves the skin super soft. It's very strong. It's removing all the hairs. You know, the hairs in this case here are about 2 millimeters long, but it is actually getting them off. So they're all very, very strong. Okay. So another way to do strip waxing is with a cartridge. And we've got one of the cartridges, 4 different types. Actually, there's a 5th one, the Magnifico as well for men, but this one is the Active Gold. So to prime the cartridge, especially when it's brand new, you can run the wax along on a strip to get the application going. In fact, you don't even have to throw that strip. You can use it with your waxing, so you don't have to waste it. Okay. And you don't have to do that each time, it's just at the beginning. Okay, wow, more hairs are coming off. That's coming along really nicely. So really, whether you use a wax in a jar or whether you use a cartridge is really personal preference. I am personally a spatula strip waxer. I prefer that, but the cartridges are definitely very popular and a lot of salons will not use anything else. So sometimes when you have very short hair, and it doesn't actually have to be just completely short hair. Some people might grow their hair to about 1 centimeter, and yet they have a lot of short hairs that are present at the same time. So those little short hairs sometimes you cannot remove, and we need to be able to rely on something. There's nothing worse than having to tweeze a lot of short hairs. It is so time consuming and it's really very uncomfortable for the client. So we need to be able to rely on a different wax to actually remove those short hairs. Very often some people say the wax broke the hairs, but that is not often the case. It is simply that some hair has grown longer, some of it stays dormant on the skin and it doesn't grow. Once you remove those hairs, those dormant hair growths will grow and it looks like you have broken them off. So you need to actually feel the skin and tell the client that you can feel those short hairs, so she cannot blame you that you have broken them off. It's the worst thing that can happen, because usually within 5 or 7 days they go, oh, she broke the hairs off, the hairs are not, you know, I've got all the hair growth back again, so they want to come back and have another treatment for nothing. So if you can explain that to your client before you start waxing, it is very important, so she can identify that she's got a second hair growth and it's there. This kind of hair growth is usually very present with people who have really strong hair growth. To do the knees with strip wax, you can use your cartridges just as you would normally, and or with you might use the Lycotane. And so we go straight across, so it's a nice clean line. I always say close the windows when you apply the strip wax on the knees, because you can jump over little areas and leave little windows of skin. So close the windows, which means that you are going to remove all the hair in one go and not find that there's some little hair that's remaining there in little sections and you've got to go and do it again. So just have a good look and close the windows. Okay, so that's that. So we do the flat bits first and support the skin at the top. It's actually, you can stretch the skin better from the top. They're trying to stretch from the bottom. I prefer to wax from the side of the bed, not from the end of the bed. I do find that that's a lot better for my back, because if you're working from the end of the bed, you're bending over like this and you're constantly pulling the wax as a backhander. You know, you're going like this all the time, and this is really also very bad for your shoulders. But if you stand on the side of the bed and you're working like this, a little bit backhanded here, you're actually protecting your back and you've got better strength pulling forward. Okay, now the knees have a lot of little crevices and sometimes there can be very, very short hairs on the knees. So one of my little tricks is a complete knee patch that will remove all the little hairs that I may have missed or the wax didn't remove it. So to do that, we need to apply a bit of pre-waxing oil. Okay. This is the famous knee patch, which is something I rely on a lot. Like you can see, there's a lot of little short hairs here. So when I apply the wax, the Lycojet Desert Rose or the Lycojet Lavender is fantastic for this application, because the Lycojet waxes are the superheroes, the no tweeze wax. They will remove hair as short as 1 millimeter. All Lycon hot waxes will remove hair short as 1 millimeter, but Lycojet just does that little bit better. So we are going to apply it all over the whole knee. So we stretch the skin so we can get under the hair. And Lycojet is designed to be used very thinly, but not in this case, because it's such a large area, and if we use it very thinly, it'll be a little bit difficult to remove. It does require a bit more wax than just strip waxing, obviously, but sometimes we have to charge more because it's kind of not your fault as a therapist that they've got that kind of hair growth. So you can say, well, there's some little short hairs that I can't remove, but if you like, I can do some waxing with Lycon's Lycojet wax and remove all the hair. However, there's a lot of wax that's is used in that, and it's going to be a bit more expensive. You determine how much more expensive it is. Now, to remove this patch, a lot of people wonder, oh my God, how's she going to get that off? It's not difficult at all. So we just make sure that it's all uniformly set, because if it's too cold here, it might snap, and this is where I applied, you know, later than here. So this is going to be a little bit more set. So I actually use my hands to blend the heat. So it's all a similar consistency, so it'll come off a lot easier. So that's actually softening up a little bit there. You can actually tap wax to cool it, or you can hold on to it to warm it up. So maybe you left it on, you had a phone call, or someone came to the door, and you can come back and hold on to the wax for a while, and the heat from your hands is going to soften it. Now, to remove this, we imagine a cross. We don't have to do anything, but just to show you, we imagine a cross, and the center of the cross is just under the knee cap, right there. It's not in the middle of the knee, it's below the kneecap. So when we remove the patch, we go to there, and then we do that, remove here, here, and then we go straight up. And this is really interesting. You've got to see how much hair there is. Now, I'm going to use this cartridge on this knee, and for strip wax, whether you're applying the strip wax with a spatula or with a cartridge, it is best to have the knee up. So the skin is more stretched, and you will get a lot more hairs that way, rather than them hiding in the crevices of the knees. Okay, there we go, it's rolling. Right, so close the windows again. It's a funny expression, but I think it really makes a lot of sense. That's it. Again, support at the top, pull, stretch the skin, and as you're bonding where there is hair to be removed and wax to be removed, and here you're soothing at the same time. Okay. And the same with the cartridge. I mean, the hairs have come off really very well, but you can also do the knee patch after the cartridge waxing as well. All right, good. Thank you. Right. When the hair is very short with strip waxing, I'll often get asked which wax can you use as the big patch all over the leg. Well, I don't quite wax like that all the time because the hair grows in all these different directions, so it's very difficult to pull a big patch in the right direction. But it comes in very handy if you have been waxing with strip wax and some of the hair could not be removed because it's just far too short. You can actually rely on the big patch to remove the remaining hairs. So you can use any of the Lycon hot waxes, but I particularly like the film waxes, like this is the Lycotane wax, is a white one. Look, it's very pliable, very gentle, doesn't break and doesn't crack, and also the Lycodream. The Lycodream is the one that is a blend between the traditional Lycon hot waxes and the Lycotane put together, and they work like magic. So we always If you're beginning, if you're starting to wax, then you can use the Lycotane Skin Cleanser. Don't ever forget that. I'll do it anyway, but and then we apply some of the pre-waxing oil. You can tap the bottle, because if you press the pump down, you'll get too much oil. Like I did get a bit too much oil, and if it's too much, then things don't work so well. I often just wipe my gloves off on the paper on the couch to get rid of some of the oil, or you can use a tissue to remove a lot of it off. Now I like to have a stirring spatula in the heater that I don't use on the client. It's really handy, so you don't always have to use a new spatula to stir, and you can stir in as deeply as you need to. That's really convenient, and this is what these spatulas are doing here right now. They're not to be used. Okay, so if there is short hair, we have to scrape to lift the hair up into the wax. It's a good idea to keep the wax relatively uniform thickness. It will come off easier. If you had really long hair and you wanted to put a big patch like this, you really can, but I wouldn't put it on both sides. That's very difficult to remove. So that is ready. And there we go. Woo woo. So plenty of short hairs that came off with that. Lots and lots. Wow, I love that. The legs are a great area to practice hot waxing. We don't often do hot waxing on the legs, but it's a very good practice area, because you have more area to work on and improve your technique. If you can work on someone else, it's really great, but you can also do it on yourself. You can also use the arms, because before you do a Brazilian or a bikini wax, it's so good to be able to control the wax, and here's your playground. So we apply some pre-waxing oil, just a little bit more. Now it depends on how dry the skin is and how much oil you need. Now our model has pretty dry skin, so it'll absorb the oil very quickly and very nicely. So, and there we go. I will apply some on the other leg as well. Okay, if you have applied too much oil, always wipe some of it off, but we don't have too much oil anyway. Okay, there are quite a few different hot waxes. First of all, I'm going to use the rosette hot wax, and the skin is prepared. It has a pre-waxing oil on it, and we don't take too much wax. We don't dip the whole spatula in the wax. We take some on the end of it, and we have the wax on both sides, and that'll give us a very nice patch. Now to apply the wax, we apply it with the edge of the spatula just like that. We don't apply it flat, we scrape upwards, and that way if there are any short hairs, and people who even have long hair, some of the hair, there's like a second growth that will be growing through, so we need to lift those little hairs into the wax. So that is the way you do it. You scrape really hard. Now if you could hear, I'm not sure, it is actually quite firm, and but when you have the wax on the spatula, the wax and the spatula just glide. So, and then the pressure that you're applying when you're applying the wax is even more important. Just watch what I'm doing. I'll explain a little bit more as I go along, and keep the edges nice and full, because that'll be a very easy way to actually remove the wax. It needs to be applied about a banana skin thickness. So here we go. Now I apply the wax against the hair growth. So we scrape and then release the pressure of the scrape, and then you can smooth it over. And that's it. Now, You can apply a second one. You don't need to wait for one to set. You can apply another one, and there it is. Now we have these little multiple soft squares, and if you do not want to throw your spatulas out, you can actually use one of those. They come in a lovely little pack. There's hundreds of them there, and then you can use the other end of the spatula very easily. To remove the wax, we remove it against the hair growth. So the hair is usually growing this way, so at an angle, and off it comes. Now again, the next one, and there we are. Now the way I'm removing the wax, I'll do another one so that you can see. Now because I've removed the wax there already, I'm applying just a little bit of extra pre-waxing oil, because the wax will take the oil off. So you always need to reapply the pre-waxing oil before you apply another patch of wax. And even if you don't think you're going to apply it on the same area, you probably find you're overlapping, so it's important to reapply the oil. So scrape and then release the pressure and smooth over. Now when you remove the hot waxes, and even with the strip waxes, it's important to have flexible wrists. If you don't have flexible wrists, you're not going to be able to follow the contour of the leg or any part of the body. So, and then you would be removing the wax like an aeroplane here, and it can become a helicopter here. So it really needs to be removed like an aeroplane going around the world. Okay, so here we go, and there. So you can see that my wrists are always very flexible. So that is a traditional hot wax rosette, which contains titanium dioxide and chamomile, so it's very, very soothing. It's very pliable. Now I removed that a little while ago, and it's still very pliable. Pliable waxes make waxing very, very comfortable, and this is what Lycon is known about. The temperature is not hot. Actually, I've got a little bit of oil on my hand, and I'm going to apply a third bit on the same area. So, and the skin is not red at all. So I have no problem. You don't have to ask the client. You can test it on yourself, and you will know that Lycon hot waxes are not hot at all. They don't smart, they don't burn, and then they always feel very comfortable, and you have no problem putting them on the same area 5 or 6 times. So they'll be ready. It's important to actually remove them also when they're still a little bit pliable. No need for them to go real hard to hold the hair. They will hold the hair while they're still pliable. I'll show you a different wax now, and that is a very famous, and it's an award-winning Lycojet. It comes in lavender, and the one I've got here is the desert rose. So this one has rose and chamomile, and the lavender is purple, and they're really exactly the same, just a different color and a slightly different scent. So the pre-waxing oil is already on here. Anyway, a bit more. Okay, now the Lycojet can be used in about 1/3 of the thickness of the traditional hot waxes, and it's very strong. It's a superhero. It also removes very short hair, and you can use it a bit thinner. So it's more economical. If you want to speed up the setting of the wax, you can always touch the wax, and there it goes. It is also very low temperature, so if you want to apply some more on the same area, it's absolutely not a problem. There we go. So why do we need to apply the wax so many times on an area? Because I mean, isn't the wax good enough to remove all the hair? Well, it is. But in some areas, the hair grows in all these different directions, and there's short ones and longer hair. So let's take, for example, a Brazilian wax or an underarm wax. So on the underarms, the hair is growing in different directions, and you need to be able to go over the same area a few times to get all those hairs. And when you're taking it off, you don't have to yank it off really fast. You can actually remove it like that. It doesn't have to be so abrupt. The next one I would like to show you is a Lycotane film wax, which is made from synthetic resins. It's extremely soft, very pliable. You can apply it quite thinly, almost works like a strip wax, but it is actually a hot wax. So for long hair, the Lycotec is better to be applied with the hair growth. If the hair is very short, you would apply it against the hair growth. So see how far that goes? And it sets pretty quickly. That is already ready to be removed. And there we go. It's so pliable, so soft, and it will remove very short hair as well. Let me show you that again. We've already got oil on that side, and there are some hairs there. Okay. There's another one in the Lycotec range, which is the Super Berry, which has a berry scent. It's so soft, so gentle, and people don't even think they've been waxed or no hair's been pulled out. That's how gentle they are. Now, the next one we have is the Lycodream. The Lycodream is actually a hybrid hot wax. It's a blend between the traditional hot wax formula and the synthetic resin formula. So it's a blend of the two. And this one is also film wax, and it's used like Lycotec. It smells amazing. It's got some lovely berry smells in it. And we remove it like that, and you can go with the hair growth. Now we're going to get on to the Pinkini. Pinkini from the Brazilian care range is amazing, totally amazing for Brazilian waxing, but it can be used anywhere else as well. So this is Pinkini right here, and it is also a hybrid hot wax. So it's also a blend between the traditional pine resin hot waxes and the synthetic resin waxes. It's a hot wax, and it can be used quite thinly. It's also extremely gentle. Now, because the hair is very long here, we're applying it with the hair growth. On the Brazilian area, it's going to be a little bit different. You'll need to apply it against the hair growth because you need to lift the hairs up into the wax and actually get the wax to the base of the hair. Get the wax to skin level. Otherwise, it's not going to hold the hair very well, and it'll actually pull the hair like from afar, and it's actually not going to feel comfortable at all. But if the Pinkini wax is applied right to the skin level, then it's holding all the hair very firmly, and it's going to totally pretty well not hurt anybody. Some people will feel pain. We cannot say that pain-free is 100% for everybody. So this is Lycojet again. And one thing I get asked all the time is how to do the toes. So the toes, make sure we clean them with Lycotane Skin Cleanser. Then we apply a bit of pre-waxing oil. I personally prefer to do the toes with hot wax, but strip wax is also very fine. The reason I like hot wax is because you can apply a little bit more pre-waxing oil on the toes so that the dryness of, the dry skin will not absorb the strip wax. The strip wax will then be a little bit more difficult to remove. Now this one's ready to come off. Okay, so let's see. We'll use rosette. And we don't do one toe at a time. We can do a few of them all at once. Let's try the Lycodream as well. So scrape the hair up. And there we go. So to remove it, and there we go. And all the hair's out. Now this one, we'll just let it set a little longer. The toes are usually cold, so the strip wax can actually really stay on the skin and can be a bit difficult to remove. So now when we finish, we cleanse the skin with Lycotane Skin Cleanser again. In case you're wondering about the mole here, that has been checked by a doctor. We can wax over that, but otherwise you wouldn't do it. There are the usual contraindications with wax and waxing, so you need to be sure that you can actually wax over hairy moles. Ideally, if it hasn't been checked by a doctor, you need to cut the hair off at skin level and wax around it. Now, if the client may be prone to ingrown hairs, we would then now spray the Ingrown-X-IT. And then we finish off with the application of the Tea Tree Soothe. So, underarms were very scary for me. I actually started to wax in 1968 when I was 18. I made my own wax for personal use, and I did my legs for a long time. In fact, for 7 years before I was game to do my underarms. I was quite scared of it. I thought it would really hurt a lot. And one day I thought, that's it, I'm going to do it. I'm sick and tired of shaving. And I was so surprised that it was so easy, so quick, and it hardly hurt. So I prefer to use any of the hot waxes on the underarms, the traditional ones with the pine resin, or the film waxes with the synthetic resins. It really doesn't matter, but the strongest ones are the ones that are the traditional ones with the pine resin. So I'm going to start off with one of those, and then we can use some of the others as well. So first of all, we always cleanse the skin with Lycotane Skin Cleanser. The hair is very short on our model, but I know that it will all come off. I never do strip waxing on the underarms because women want to get the hair off as quickly as possible, and strip wax so often will not be able to remove it. So then we must apply the pre-waxing oil. And do apply the oil not just where the hair is, but apply it on the surrounding skin as well. And that way you can actually put the wax on the surrounding skin, and that is your lifting edge. So you don't have to pull and lift and flick the wax off where just the hair is, because that will be more painful. But you actually flick where there's no hair. So the first wax I'm going to use is the Lycojet. And our model has a relatively large area, even though hair is short, but it's a large area where there's hair. So I'm going to do it in 2 sections. That's one section. And the hairs under the arms grow in different directions, so you'll never get them all in one go. And then the other side, you know, the lower part rather, is just like that. Okay. So don't pull straight up. That will not be comfortable and it can bruise the client. So I'm flicking here where there's no hair, and I can get a very good grip on the wax and just pull. And wow, here we go. Lots and lots of hairs with the bulb and all. And then the other one as well. So now we're going to apply all over. This one's exactly the same, lots and lots of hair. Now, I've got a bit of oil still on my gloves, so I'm just going to blend the oil around. I'm not putting any extra on, and I'll continue on with the Lycojet. Okay, so scrape. A little bit too much oil in that spot, but that's all right. There's no hair there either, so it's working a bit differently. I'll do the other side with one of the other waxes. Actually, I'm going to use a Pinkini, so that'll give you an idea how well it does for Brazilian waxing. Okay. Again, I'm going to apply it in 2 parts. I really do want to show you as many waxes as I can, so you can see that they all work similarly. Some of them are actually exactly the same in the traditional hot waxes, but then they have special additives like Micro Mica or titanium dioxide, some aromatherapy oils. Okay, that's really clean, it's wonderful. And this one, because the hairs are growing in that direction, and there we go as well. Now this one I probably forgot about, but it's okay. It's still pliable and it doesn't really matter. And there's still a few more. Okay, so just the tiniest bit of... If the follicles bleed, which is very normal, you can actually clean the follicles, you know, the blood of the skin, with a bit of Lycotane skin cleanser. Because every time you pull out a hair, you're actually tearing the follicle. And if the hair is very strong, especially if the hair has been shaved for a long time, then that little tear is going to be a little bit more significant, and there can be some blood that will come through to the surface of the skin, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's really quite normal. And with regular waxing, as the hair growth becomes weaker and little scars can develop within the follicle, the hair will become less, thinner, finer, and a lot of it will not grow back in time. So we love seeing some of that happening. And at the end, it's a good idea to apply the Ingrown-X-IT solution. Don't spray it on their face, just be careful. A little bit goes a long way, and just rub it in. That's right. And then a little bit of tea tree soothe. So thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon somewhere. Other than that, happy Lycon waxing. Lydia Jordan, Lycon Cosmetics.